now that I've solved that mystery, Sherlock Holmes here, reporting for Cosmetic Duty. Holy shit, we're back. I did it. I'm here. Either bravery or insanity has been achieved. It has reigned supreme, and I have officially started this channel. Real girl shit is in action. We are on episode 2. So if you watched my first video and you made it through that entire first like 40 minutes, thank you. Thank you for sticking with it. If you made it all the way through, it was kind of a train wreck. I think I said in the description box, count how many times I ummed and ahed. I'm trying to stop myself from doing that right now. I guess before we get into it, I'm gonna do that thing where I tell you to like and subscribe and ring the bell. Bell? I still don't know the orientation, but you know, I guess just do that if you want to get notifications about my new content. But honestly, you do whatever you want. I'm not your real dad. So today, as the, just gave you a preview, as the title of this video suggests, we are going to be talking about two things, kind of expanding on what I talked about in my first video. So 1, dirty cream blushes, and 2, fear of the aging woman. So, like I already said, that first video was very long. Also, if you notice, I cut my bangs. I did a chaotic thing, and then I curled them because I have no calyx on this side, so this droops, and not important. Sorry if they're a distraction, but I was trying to detract from the distraction of the third cousins masquerading as my eyebrows, because that was just atrocious. Anyways, so now it's my bangs that will be the constant distraction in today's video. I'm hoping that this video will be a little shorter this time, but I think, as every single one of my English teachers and creative writing teachers could attest to, I am a tell girl. I am not a show girl. Funny. Even though I took drama. So I will explain and describe the entire forest to you and every single living thing within it. I will give you the backstory and the emotional state of that entire forest before I introduce the main character. That is just par for the course with me, because I'm a real girl. I don't know. That's a stupid, everybody's a real girl. Unless you're a robot, and then, you know, it's up to your creator and your soul to determine whether or not that makes you what? So because I've also titled this video, Get Ready With Me, it's probably clear that I'm mostly ready. I went a little more dramatic. I've got some glitter, I've got some eyeliner on, more so than I did last time. But what I'm missing is my blush, because by the end of this video, once we talk about all of my disgusting blushes, I have all of them, all of my cream blushes, in this gorgeous little bag that came with my merit order. I've got all the blushes in here. We're going to look at them all, and we're going to try and figure out, maybe this is just me, but they're dirty. I'm gonna be brave and show you that. I don't know if you can see. This is the Kosas cream blush. They're gross. Am I just also a dirty girl? That sounded sexual. It's not. It's gross. I'm armed with a paper towel and these little Christmas tree spongy things. And I guess we're going to attempt to clean my cream blushes. I've titled this Keeping Your Cream Blush Clean. Say that 5 times fast. I dare you. It's hard. Keep your cream blush clean. No. Can't. I can't do it. Maybe you can. It can't just be me that struggles with this. And I am a brush user, as we kind of explored in the first episode. Maybe most people use their fingers or sponges to apply cream blush, so that deposits less gunk into the product. But again, I use a brush, and they're in a little holder out in open air, and I have cats and dust, so anything that collects on the brush gets put in to the cream. It's not a powder blush issue, it's a cream blush issue. I guess we'll try, I feel so bad about this. We're gonna try the paper towel, and this is the one that I've been waving around. The Kosas Color and Light Cream in Velvet Melon in the high intensity color. And I don't really use the highlighter, but I'm gonna go in with the paper towel and just, I guess, wipe this. And it's also old, so like it's not as creamy anymore as it should be, but it just, you waste so much product. Ooh, but there's gunky and like hairy stuff coming off of that. That's gross. And then it's such a mess. But I guess that sort of worked. I'm really gonna have to go in there. But the other tip that I saw, I Googled this because I like to Google everything, was to use a sponge instead. And I guess that makes sense. And obviously this is a brand new clean sponge. I don't use these sponges ever. They were from an old photo shoot that I worked on. And I guess, oh, I just stuck my nail in there. I guess you can just wipe it with the sponge, and it kind of cleans that up. I mean, I don't know. Ugh. That just landed on the floor. Goodbye. You are the weakest link. Goodbye. Can you see that? It's a little cleaner for sure. So I guess that's going to be the solution from now on. It's so simple. Did I need to make a whole video about it? No. But I guess I'll also take this opportunity to show you all of the other blushes that I have. So also Kosas. This is, again, the Color and Light Cream in Tropic Equinox, which I've hit pan on, but I use this more as a bronzer than a blush. I've dipped a little bit more into the highlight there, but again, I don't really use highlight. It's an overwhelming makeup item to me, and I wish, maybe they'll do this at some point, but I wish that they would come out with these with like 2 colors of blush instead of the highlighter. Don't need it. When they released the high intensity, they changed the highlight color. Originally, the Kosas blushes all had the exact same highlighter color in it, which if you wanted every single blush, then you just ended up with 100 of the same highlight. So I've got Tropic Equinox, Velvet Melon, again, both in high intensity, which I love. And then 8th Muse, which I have dipped into. I love this color. It's obviously a little cooler toned, and I use it sparingly because I just don't want it to end. And then I have, oh gosh, nail in there again. And then I have Helios, which is this gorgeous, let's do that, that's better. Gorgeous, gorgeous orange with this like really deep gold. It's so pretty. Can you see that? That's the highlight color. And look at me doing influencer things, swatching. You might not be able to tell how gorgeous and intense this orange is, but that's going to be a summer color for sure. And I love cream blush so much. So much. And so what I used in my last video was the Tower 28 in Happy Hour. I also have Golden Hour, which I mentioned that again, orange, not really working for me right now because I'm a little paler than I'm used to being. Oh man, the bangs are going to prove to be such a distraction. Then I have a really old Nude Sticks in Sunkiss, which again, I kind of use this as a bronzer. And what I like about stick blushes, and I'm going to pull out a couple others, that these are old, discontinued, but I'm not an influencer, so I'm not trying to influence you to buy these things. These are the Bite Multi-Sticks, and I've had them for such a long time that the magnet is broken. So I've got, but I'm never going to get rid of them. I love them so much. So I have one in Papaya, which is a nice pink. corally pink, and then I have mochi or mochi, I don't know how you want to pronounce that, and it's like a really intense red. So I tend to use this one more as a lipstick. But what I love about a stick is that if it gets really gross, you can just roll it up and slice off that tip if you want to. And then it's brand new. Obviously, these expire. I probably shouldn't be putting them on my face, but I do. Then I have, anyways, moving on. I have a Fenty cream blush in drama class, and it's purple. That is purple. And I was a little nervous about this because obviously to wear purple on your cheeks, you definitely need the right undertones. Look at me. I know what I'm talking about because it reads really purple. And if I go into a very certain kind of fluorescent lighting and I have that on my skin, it looks a little crazy. But I like it anyways. I think this is what I put on my cheeks for New Year's Eve. I liked it. And then, so exciting. These are my favorite. These came out last year. This is by Rituel Delphi, and it's their new Color Nectar Pigment Balm. So this is Bee Sting, which is so pretty. It's very similar to Velvet Melon, honestly. And I use that one quite a bit. And then I have the color Glass Wing, which again it looks super deep, but it's very like a plum berry kind of color. You can see that. I really like this. I wear this on my cheeks a lot. And then again, because I love orange so much, I got the color Snapdragon. And this one is not dirty. This is a clean one because I don't use it very often. But can you see that? Ooh, it's such a juicy orange. I freaking love it. I love them so much. So these again are difficult to clean, and I'm going to fish out another sponge and see if the sponge will work on here. I'm going to say that the paper towel was a fail. It's really messy. And the good thing about the sponge is that you're not really creating waste. You can wash these if you want to. Oh yeah, gross, gross. I don't know if you can see that chunk. That's hair. Ooh, but I feel bad because is that not wasting so much product? I mean, I guess there's a lot in here, and who finishes this stuff before the expiry date? Not I. But that works. Okay, guys, we solved the mystery. Keeping your cream blush clean. Again, this is probably something that everybody knows, and I'm just gross and don't do this ever. It's like washing my makeup brushes, which I should do so much more often. But the sponge thing works, and these ones come in like the bulk bags, so it's not like you're using a beauty blender or big beauty sponge and like constantly wasting it. These are not necessarily cream blushes, but I thought I would just bring them out anyways because these are easy to keep clean. I've got a glossy cloud paint. This is in Dawn, and this is the Ilia Color Haze Multi Matte Pigment in Stutter. Again, can you tell that I like these orangey colors? And this one is so lovely because it has that like metal tip applicator. And I'm going to just put some, I think this is also expired, to be perfectly honest. I've had all of this stuff for a long time. Like this was an in-store Sephora purchase. So you know that's been a while. I haven't been in-store in well over a year. So this one right here is Stutter. Gorgeous. I love that so much. So anyways, I'm gonna move on now that we've solved the mystery. Again, just being a gross person, and this was probably very obvious. As I'm talking about the rest of my subject today, I will decide which blush to put on my face. My eyes are just brown. Obviously my eye color is brown. The shadow on my eyes is brown with little brown, kind of goldy brown sparkles. So I could really go either way. I could go warm or cool, in my humble opinion. We'll see. But now that that's over, I want to move on to the kind of the heavier things portion of today's episode. It's a theme that we can extrapolate from my last rant in episode 1, kind of about that generational discontent. And I wanted to talk about this specifically because I saw an article in The Guardian last week, 2 weeks ago, titled, and I'm going to pull it up on my computer here, which is where I'm looking, by the way. Which tweets reflect society's fear of the older woman? Says Mary Beard. And Mary Beard is the, I'm assuming that she is a UK host of a show called Inside Culture. And the whole article is kind of her talking about, you know, the parallels between the witch trials of the past and like online abuse that we see and this specific woman receives today. And I can link the article in my bio. I don't really know anything about this woman specifically, but I wanted to talk about it. It was timely, it was poignant. I think we see, whether or not we recognize it, we see this fear of the aging woman in our daily lives. We see it in culture, we see it in pop culture, we see it in our society, we see it in the way that we treat our elders, which is kind of what I was talking about last week. I could create a whole lecture series about this topic. So rather than do that and waste more of your time, today is kind of just going to skate around in every direction on this surface level. There are so many nuances to this. I am not an expert. I am just an individual and a woman experiencing this and witnessing it, and it's something that I feel very strongly about and that I wanted to talk about it. And we may revisit this again to dig a bit deeper on some things, but today we're just going to stick again to that surface kind of level. So let's rewind. Forget about today. Forget about 2021. Once upon a time, the aging or aged woman wasn't necessarily a bad thing. You know, she was the wise woman. She was the matriarch, she was the goddess, the healer. And I mean, you can do your own research on this if this is also a subject that interests you, but then, you know, there was, I don't know how many thousands of years ago, but there was the kind of the rise of the 3 goddesses. So we have the maiden, the mother, and then the crone. And the crone archetype is something that you will see everywhere. As soon as you kind of research it and open your eyes to it, you will see that everywhere, again, in everyday culture, in popular culture, just in every single day society. And again, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but the crone is kind of that, like, the last stage in, you know, this goddess realm. And in patriarchal society specifically, which is still this kind of society structure that we live in, maiden, mother, and crone, again, are just, they're mundane women, and it's just, it represents like the stages of female purpose. You can do your own research, you can dig deeper, you can read, there's a lot of feminist literature on this. You can just Google the crone archetype, you can Google fear of the aging woman. But what I find most interesting is that you can do all of that. You can experience this intellectual enlightenment, if you will, but there's still going to be this layer of emotional and psychological angst that's directly associated with the society that we engage with and the media content that society produces and we then consume. You know, the content that tells us that gray hair is a fabulous trend, but only on a young, beautiful, taut woman. Wrinkles aren't ever in. Botox is. Smooth foreheads, plump lips, bright eyes, not a dark bag in sight. And this is not me in any way, you know, shitting on people who get work done, who get Botox, who get lip injections, who color their hair to remove the grays. I believe that every person and every woman deserves agency, deserves to do whatever they want. They have the right to their own bodies and their own decisions. If any of that stuff is something that makes you happy and makes you feel comfortable and more beautiful, that's wonderful. That it's your choice. You've made that decision for yourself, and I am personally not here to judge that. But what I'm looking at is what's behind those choices. What drives those choices? What drives that desire to make that choice? Because we don't start out as humans wanting those things. We don't start out aspiring to keep our smooth, youthful foreheads and, you know, our clear skin and our perfectly lifted, perky little breasts. We don't start out that way. We don't come out of the womb as women or female identifying folk and immediately want those things for ourselves. I very much believe that we're programmed in a way to believe that this is how we achieve the XYZs of happiness or beauty or whatever kind of lies in the void between those two things. Again, why do we want smooth foreheads? Why do we crave smooth legs with no cellulite and no hair? Why is long, color-rich, shining, lustrous locks the only hair goal? Why do we scrutinize ourselves in the mirror and pluck and tweeze and squat and squeeze until we've reached some paradigm or pinnacle of youth or beauty? It's so insidious. And again, if all of that stuff makes you as an individual happy, again, I'm not judging. I'm just looking at the underlying factors that determine those choices. We're so afraid of our own mortality, I think. But particularly as society, we're afraid of the aging woman. There's that quote by Audre Lorde, women are powerful and dangerous. And it's true. I think that's the underlying fear, is the older and wiser a woman gets, the more powerful and dangerous she becomes. Again, this is like programmed into us as when we come into the world and start interacting with society and culture and other people and the patriarchy. And it's frustrating because on that subject of the patriarchy, the aging man gets so many passes. He is instantly respectable, mature, wise. Go online, watch a movie. How many silver foxes can you count? You know, the older man can be pope or president. You know, he holds the highest of office. But an aging woman is destined to become a witch or a crone. An aging woman is an invalid. The depths of her mind are twisted rather than rich with wisdom, which is bullshit. You know, she is an infertile, wicked creature belonging only to the deepest depths of a dark forest. And I, as a young woman, as a going on 31-year-old woman, I am 100% guilty of all of these feelings too. I too wake up in the middle of the night, walk across the room to use the bathroom, find myself washing my hands before I want to go back to bed. And then all of a sudden I'll see myself in the mirror and I find myself leaning across the counter to get closer to that mirror, and I start scrutinizing myself. I peer at myself in this midnight mirror and I start to agonize over how much I've aged in the past 5 years. You know, how much my face has changed. I flip my hair over. Ooh, there's the eyebrows. I flip my hair over and start to count the spiraling white strands that like to hide there. And I will be perfectly forthcoming with you about this. When I cut my bangs last night, a couple of those hairs just shot up to the sky and I plucked them again. And I feel like that plucking is a physical denial of such a natural process. And I'm conscious of it. I know what I'm doing, but my emotional state and my emotional and psychological reaction to that completely natural, beautiful process is in immediate conflict. And so I pluck those gray hairs. I deny that I'm getting older in that singular action. So I look at the new texture that has appeared between my brows and across my eyelids that I'm so convinced wasn't there before. And I look at the darkening, deepening circles beneath my eyes, and it feels like the biggest signifier of my aging since I kind of turned 25. And more often than not, and I will completely admit to this because I'm sure I'm not alone here, but more often than not in those kind of midnight mirror moments, it will bring me to tears. And then, you know, sleep doesn't follow because these visual signs of age come with this, you know, internal and even more existential angst and agony. That this recognition that my biological clock is thundering inside of me, but that soon will cease. And you know, that with year 30, my fertility began to decline. And you know, what does all of that mean for me and my place in this world and my value as a woman? And will I ever find love now that I'm getting old? And that probably sounds crazy, but all of those emotions are directly associated with so many of the things that we're fed from the time we're young girls. And again, we start consuming media, regardless of what that is. It could just be, you know, TV shows. I didn't have social media when I was a little kid. We just had TV and magazines. But that all of those things, you know, leave a mark. And we are taught that our inherent value, and I get not taught by our teachers or our parents necessarily, it's this programmed teaching that our inherent value lies in beauty and youth. And as those things start to fade, and that in itself is problematic because beauty is in the eye of the beholder, we all know that. We've left some very specific industries to determine what those things mean. That doesn't necessarily translate. We know it doesn't translate to everything, but that it has become kind of the standard, and those things leave a mark on you. And it's even, I don't know if it's more challenging when you recognize it in yourself, because again, there's this like internal battle constantly going on between that enlightenment that you have intellectually and your emotional state. And, you know, the kind of deep wounds that kind of thought patterns have left. And just to kind of dig into that further, again, being very candid here, I spent a regrettable handful of years in kind of a situationship with a man who was 10 years older than me, whose preferred woman was from the age of 20 to 25. And that kind of inflicted a certain amount of damage on my personal psyche as well, because I felt like that there was this timer counting down on my worth in that relationship or situationship that was directly attached to my age. Because, you know, within just a few years, I would no longer be acceptable because I would be older than this person's preference. You know, maybe I wouldn't necessarily be not acceptable, but at least I wouldn't be as desirable because I was outside of that age range. I was just there and accessible, but I wasn't this person's ideal, specifically because, oh my gosh, I was 26 and then 27. All of this in spite of the fact that this man too was aging right alongside of me. And that is not by any means an isolated or unique thing. Just again, look outward and you see that pattern everywhere. But aside from that, you know, this fear of the aging woman isn't just visual. There is an audible association with the way a woman's voice changes. Again, we can always just look to Hollywood to present the hyperbolic examples of all of these things, but if you do come across an older woman or a witch or a crone, depending on what you are watching, there is that like, hello, my pretty, you know, kind of change to the woman's voice. It's dark, it's deeper. I don't think I have a dark, deep voice, but there's like a rasp to it, a gravel. So there's the visual cues, there's the audible association, but there's also a scent attached. And I think, again, all of us can probably relate to this. So when I was younger, specifically, I think in my teenage years, I refused to even entertain the idea of enjoying the scent of lavender and rose because I immediately associated them with like old lady scent. And how insane is that? And I mean, again, maybe because I'm older or just more awake to these things, I love both scents now. But I think that we can all probably recognize in a moment of like snap judgment that I believe was placed in us, not born in us, that there is this old lady scent. And we recognize that old lady scent in an instant. You know, it's floral, it's herbal, it's dusty. We smell it, and perhaps we forget that that association is actually of the goddess or of the wise woman or of the healer, of Mother Nature. You know, what lingers in that old lady scent maybe isn't dust. Maybe it's just nature. Maybe it's soil and medicines and gardens and life. You know, not an old woman sitting alone in her chair by the window, neglected by society. But maybe that scent is actually nature and nurture and, you know, all of those things at the hands of the ancestral female. Maybe that's getting like too deep and philosophical into it, but if you change the way that you think about that, I think there is a certain light that kind of dings on. But our psychological and emotional states are so tuned into that external force or that external voice, that external dialogue. Our eyes are trained on the relentless barrage of, you know, female perfection rather than an internal implicit knowledge of what we ultimately know to be true, no matter how deep that truth is buried. Like it's in all of us. Again, for all intents and purposes, at 30, almost 31, I'm still a young fucking woman with a long, hopefully, life ahead of me. But to have to spend these, you know, precious years of my life not only battling internalized misogyny, but internalized ageism, it's exhausting. And I just think, you know, wouldn't it be lovely if we could just age and enjoy that? If we could, you know, look in the mirror here and go, wow, you know, this body that I reside in got me to this place. And every smile line and every scar and every, you know, different shade in my skin marks a moment in that journey. Wouldn't it be lovely to get older and feel invigorated by that and inspired by how much we've grown and how much knowledge we've acquired and how much wiser we've become, how much more ourselves we've become? Wouldn't it be lovely if when we cleansed and moisturized, it was for the purpose of rejuvenation and true self-love and care, you know, to use those moments to nourish our bodies without that like underlying intent of defying age. And listen, we'll talk about this maybe next week, but I'm a skincare junkie. I love that shit. But wouldn't it be so nice to just have those products in your hand and appreciate them for what they are rather than slathering ourselves in creams and lotions and serums, all with this very specific purpose of not getting older, of erasing the signs of age, of erasing every battle that we've fought, no matter how big or small. And, you know, don't get me wrong, we are getting there. There are so many women who have blazed that trail for us and continue to do so on a daily basis. But if you're tapped into that mainstream, you're still receiving the message that female value lies in youth and beauty. That a woman's value is in her maidenhood first, her motherhood second, but then what? You get crone-ship and witchdom. The intelligent and mature part of me is completely ready for that. I'm excited for that. Give me my cloak and staff and my hut at the edge of the woods and my long tumbling gray or white waves. You know, my personal ideal wizened version of myself is like Lily Tomlin's Frankie in Grace and Frankie. If I could just be her, if I can be Frankie, like bring on the golden years. But at the same time, there's, you know, the fear-ridden obsessive ego and the little girl who likes to take the wheel on my life all the time, who's still like desperate to be loved and accepted based on these very specific societal models. You know, she's the one who's looking out of my eyes in the middle of the night in that mirror and whimpering over every line and crease and change. It's not a matter of like choosing one over the other, one state of being over the other. I think we can honor both of those feelings because in reality, like nothing is as black and white as old and young. I don't want to look in the mirror and feel sad because my body and face is changing, especially if it's a day when I'm feeling particularly energized or youthful and bright. I think our spirit determines as much of our age as our bodies do. And so I think I would just love to see more young women and old women and all women just living their lives exactly as they want to, but also welcoming the next stages of those lives rather than dreading them. You know, looking forward as much as we like to look back. I would love to see every young woman aspiring for, you know, experience and wisdom as part of the success measurements that they choose for themselves. And obviously, like, I would just love to see the rest of our cohabitants on this planet jump on board with that too. I would love to see the older women revered and held to the highest esteem and acknowledged for, you know, their beauty and their power, not feared for any of what or who they are or what or who they've been. We can see that change and we can absorb those changes, but I think it's those internal teachings and, you know, those synapses that keep firing for a very specific program that needs the most work before we can achieve that kind of like reckoning, if that's what you want to call it. The place where we no longer fear the aging woman, and who knows how long that will take. Anyways, it's something that I think about all of the time. And again, this article that I saw, it pissed me off, and I was like, I want to talk about that. I want to talk about, you know, this fear of the aging woman, both as something that I experience and something that I see just in everyday society. Okay, so my camera doesn't like me to talk for more than 16 minutes. And just for reference, it's turned off 5 times now. So this is going to be a very long video because I don't know what I'm going to be able to cut out. Anyways, also my curl thingies have fallen. So awful. And look at how red my little ears are. This is what happens when I talk. Anyways, it is time for me to stop talking and put on some blush. And it wasn't really a decision, but I am going with the Rituel de Fille Color Nectar Pigment Balm in Glasswing. This gorgeous deep color. I don't really think I need more color on my face right now because I'm so rosy from talking, but we're just gonna do it. We're just gonna put a very lot of product on my face, and that's probably so much. Again, this mirror is so dark over here. There's no light behind the mirror. I did, that's a lot of blush, Alanna. I did get myself a soft box. Is that what you call them? Those big square lights, to see if that helps the situation. Although it feels very bright with what I've got. And I'm not about to use any sort of fancy editing software. We'll talk about this again next week, but like literally, unless it's skincare, I'm not willing to make a leap on an investment unless I know that there's going to be an immediate return. Just not. So there's a very lot of blush. A very lot. I'm going to take my hair down and see if that's how we're going to wrap up this video. And I'm going to work harder at keeping my cream blush clean. Ooh, look at that hair. It's clean. It's just crazy. Maybe this. I don't know. Ooh, I just... Nope. Why? I'm just gonna end it like this. I don't know what to tell you. My hair is being dumb. So I'm just gonna hold it in what is maybe cute, maybe not. If you have made it this far in this stupidly long video, thank you so much to my 2 subscribers and the, you know, random selection of family and close friends that will watch this video just because they love me. Sorry for torturing you. Next week, hopefully this will be a shorter video. We are going to dive into some skincare, like I already said. And we're going to talk about some pandemic feelings, which should be fun. And then the week following that, I am going to do a live stream of Breath of the Wild. That should be fun. It will just be me playing and talking and killing monsters. So that is it for me today, guys. Thank you so much again for bearing with me as I train wreck my way through YouTube. I'm just, that's it. See you in my next one. Bye.